Hello world, I'm Connor Orr. You're listening to Tumbleweed Radio, the Rocky Mountain Southwest podcast. Over the course of this show, you'll hear stories about the history and geography of this beautiful region, as well as about the human spirit and the cultures which have grown up here. We want to explore the ways that this region is unique, while also placing it into context in the greater 21st century world. For our first season, we're going to focus on Huerfano County, the county I grew up in. Huerfano County, undeniably beautiful. The region may be best known today for its mountains, with stupendous access to the dominating Spanish peaks as well as the Sangre de Cristo range. Rugged, jagged peaks, all within the neighborhood of, if not over, 14,000 feet in elevation at their summits. Our mountains are stunning, and also geologically rare, but the region also has a great deal of farming and ranch land. Huerfano has mountains, mesas, and everything in between. The county is quite rural, with only about 6,500 people reported in 2017. In contrast to some of Colorado's more well-known and northern counties, Huerfano is also quite poor, with the median household income during the same year reported at just $35,801. The county's capital, a small town named Walsenburg, has been around since the late 1800s, and this region used to be a hub for immigrants and working folk, especially when the coal mines were running. But nowadays, there's not much around here in terms of major industry, so most folks either commute elsewhere for work or rely on tourism. This has a devastating effect on the local economy. Huerfano is the Spanish word for orphan, and the county is named for the solitary butte which stands on the plains just east of Interstate 25. But the county has lived up to its name in numerous ways over the years. Huerfano has struggled tremendously over the course of its existence, and often, instead of receiving support from the state or federal government, it has been the subject of disdain and even violence. As a result, the people of Huerfano County have developed a righteous sense of independence, which can be both good and bad for the public morale. There is a saying around these parts that the Great Depression never hit Huerfano County because we were already used to doing without. Now, in the age of COVID-19, that sense of independence and isolation is playing a dramatic role, for better or for worse. Over the course of the last 6 months, we have seen the community come together in some inspiring ways, but there have also been rifts torn between people as the public tries to set itself apart from the rest of the world, in which so many fires are burning. When we first started developing this show, we had no intention of talking about a global pandemic. I mean, this is supposed to be a show about mountains and history, festivals and chili cook-offs. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And these, my friends, are desperate times indeed. We'll still bring you stories about mountains and mesas, maybe even the odd story about chili. But as journalists, we are beholden to the spirit of the times. Where this story goes, nobody knows. But we are going to find out. Season 1 of Tumbleweed Radio, Huerfano. An orphan mentality.
Hello?
Howdy, is this Mr. DeYoung?
It is. You can call me Matt, though. How about that?
That sounds good. Thank you very much, Matt, for making some time for me today.
Absolutely, Connor.
Super. So I know that right now time is a pretty interesting thing. There's both a ton of it and not enough of it, and we don't need to stay on the phone for too long. But I'm really curious about what your perspective as a business teacher is right now. Obviously business is being confronted with some real changes all across the globe, and I'm curious as to what it means for you as a teacher here at John Mall.
Yeah, I'll tell you, everything's completely different than what we knew our life as 2 months ago.
Is it okay if I record? We're putting together a piece. It's going to be a sort of audio component, and that's the big concern. We're going from business to business, and we're just wanting to kind of know how it's affecting the business owners around here.
Yeah. Since last week, it started to really die.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the month we get our spring breakers, and we're dead. We're bad.
Is there a concern about closing down for a period of time?
We're going to play it by ear and see what happens.
Okay.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to say really at this point. I mean, being day one of this whole thing, so far today has not been the greatest. I expected it to be better than what it has been, but that is what it is. I mean, a lot of people are scared. I understand that. As far as what I plan to do for the future, I'm not 100% sure yet, but with the way things are looking right now, I'm thinking like most businesses are just going to close for 30 days. There's no reason for us not to as well.
Over the last few months, I and my co-conspirator John Sheldon have spoken to business owners, community leaders, and educators about the state of affairs, and have encountered time after time a sense of desperation. Business owners have long struggled in Huerfano County. Here's John Sheldon reading an article written by his grandmother Edie Sheldon for the Huerfano World in 2010 on the state of the economy in Walsenburg from the 1990s through the early 2000s.
Walsenburg, Boom and Bust Syndrome. Published on February 4, 2010, by Edie Sheldon. The latter part of the 1990s seemed to catch Walsenburg at a particularly good time. As stated, the 2000 census reported the population of the town was up, and there were new businesses in town. Most of the businesses had located on Main Street. It seemed like prosperity was arriving, and the community's mood was good. The new prison, Corrections Corporation of America, had opened its doors, and the new hospital and veterans nursing home were doing well. However, a quick analysis of the population trends revealed that the student population in RE1 was dropping slightly each year, indicating that fewer families with school-aged children were moving in or staying here. The median age of the population was listed at 37.9 years and found to be increasing. There were more housing units occupied in Walsenburg than had been in the previous 10 years. But as the decade has passed, more vacancies were noted and the real estate market slowed in the city. Unfortunately, the underlying story was discouraging. The increasing median age of the general population was an indicator. The potential labor pool shrinks when families must leave the area to find jobs with an income that adequately provides for the family. The prison and the hospital are then forced to recruit from surrounding communities for employees. The money earned by employees from out of town is taken out of town. The average annual median income has not risen above the poverty level for many years in Huerfano County. And in general, this gives rise to a negative attitude among citizens. Even though the summer months bring tourist traffic and summer residents, there is nothing to sustain the retail and service businesses in the community during the long months of winter without the benefit of businesses that will provide a reason for working-age people to remain here. Meanwhile, the cost of living keeps creeping up. The business owner is faced with the difficult dilemma of attempting to keep prices affordable for the community. As each retail, food, or service business discovers that debts are increasing and income is not keeping pace, they make the only logical choice, to sell or quit doing business. When the doors close on a business, the community is left with an empty space that is not only hard to fill during hard times, but adds to the disparaging appearance perceived by locals and visitors. When the comment is made that first appearances mean a lot, this is so true in the case of visitors traveling through the community. Only if the main shopping section appears to be healthy and attractive will the visitor be tempted to stop and pursue the local shops for some mementos. In the final analysis, this community needs to focus on economic development in order to survive the next several years. The current national economic stresses mean that less government and private funding will be available for completion of necessary infrastructure projects, which would ordinarily create cash flow into the economy of the community. It will take more effort to find money with which to drive the local economy. The community needs to work together to find ways to improve its outlook. Many rural communities are finding ways to combat the economic stresses, and Walsenburg can learn from these efforts. As has happened so many times in the past, this community will survive its challenges if it can find ways to work together. Challenge and adversity can bring successes.
Well, challenge and adversity can be found in abundance right now. Although Walsenburg's economic state has been improving some in recent years, many of those problems that Edie outlined still persist today. There have been some tremendous efforts undertaken by the community, especially by the schools and the youth groups, to react to this crisis. There has been an ongoing effort to provide food boxes for vulnerable people and victims of sudden loss of employment. These efforts have helped to mitigate the damage caused by COVID-19, but they alone are not enough. In order to survive and better yet flourish in this new age, even beyond the scope of the virus, Huerfano County will have to adopt new and radical ways of conducting business and working together. We have to support each other as we plow our way forward into the future while honoring our history. The process is ever ongoing, and the playing ground is ever shifting. To find out more about the ways that we're all adapting, and to get a closer view into the unique and beautiful world of the Rocky Mountain Southwest, stay tuned for more episodes of Tumbleweed Radio, a podcast from the World Journal. Thanks for listening. Also, special thanks to Matt DeYoung, the business teacher at John Mull High School, the high school in Walsenburg, Phyllis Cordova, the owner of the Alpine Rose Restaurant, and Joe Silling, the owner of George's Drive-In Diner. I made this podcast, did the recording, the editing, all that good jazz, so it is what it is. Thanks.